chance to be independent learners, to experience the world of work without the interference of adults. And I think the latter is a very important point. So the children enter the city, they have a choice of 60, 70 activities ranging from pilot to theatre to sports stadium to working in a bank to producing the front page of a newspaper, etc. But the grown-ups essentially are not allowed to interfere or tell them what to do. And the other thing it does for children, it kind of fulfills a sense of purpose. So when I ask all over the world, when I ask children, why do you go to school? The answer all too often is because I have to. When you begin to produce the front page of a newspaper and you take away the end product, you all of a sudden understand why, in the case of KidZania Moscow, why you're learning Russian at school. So it is the theory into practice, the appliance of science. I think that there's a couple of things on this. So let me give you a number of observations, because as I travel globally, the first thing is wherever in the world I am, when I show adults around KidZania, the comment that is made everywhere, every time is, I wish this had been around when I was a child. So there's an element of, one, the realization from the adults that this is a good thing, and secondly, that they wish they could have played and role-played like that. Secondly, adults, and I'm a parent too, we do have the habit of saying to our children, don't do this, don't do that, do it like this, come here, hold my hand. So the idea of the level of independence is a good thing. How else, as a child, can you make up your mind what you like and what you don't like, and why not? At the same time, of course, it's a good thing sometimes if parents and children do things together. So it's about a balance. I'm all for family days and I'm doing things together, as long as that's counterbalanced by children being allowed and enabled and are empowered to learn and gain experiences independently. It's a very interesting thing. So we role play on its own doesn't work. Role play and role modeling, for example, are linked. Role play is about copied behavior. And I'll give you a very practical example of this. So our global research is showing that children from a very young age adapt to stereotypes. So if you have the aeroplane has two activities. One is pilot, one is cabin crew. The cabin crew activity is almost predominantly girls. The pilot activity is almost predominantly boys, from the age of 4. Okay. If inside a KidZania, like we've done in Manila, and like we've done in Mumbai, and like we've done in London, and like we will do in Moscow, if you deliberately start to deploy our staff anti-stereotypes, so if our staff, if the pilots in KidZania London are all female and the cabin crew are all male, the children copy that behavior and those percentages change. So the relationship between role modeling and role play and getting children to change their thinking is incredibly important. And the other thing that I think that KidZania gives to children is the opportunity to, we talked about independence, but also the opportunity to experience in an environment that's not a classroom. And the environment is a teacher. And it allows children to gain confidence, to make up their own mind, to express their likes and dislikes, and actually to make sense of the world around them. And that's a very good reason sometimes to keep the adults at a distance. That's a very interesting question, and I think that's a question that we need to look at as educators and as teachers, and indeed as politicians and policy makers. What we're very clearly trying to do in KidZania at a global level, and I'll come to global versus national in a minute, is to work very closely with OECD and the OECD program, The Future We Want, Education 2030, which is about skills rather than measuring what you've remembered. Yeah? We need to globally move towards a skills-based education system rather than a system that tests how well you've remembered what you've been told in the last 10 months. I'm not going to go in and decry this, but if we want our children to have a chance of enjoying life in a world that changes incredibly quickly due to the influence of technology, we need to build in skills like not just communication skills and the ones that are listed, but the skill to adapt, the skill to be ready for change, the skill to be confident enough to do this. So the experience that sit around the 4Ks are as important as the identified skills themselves. It's not either or, right? So what we need to be very clear about is that Kidzania and school go hand in hand, but we need to paint a picture that says we need to also differentiate between schooling and education in a much wider sense. Okay, so the knowledge that the children have been taught at school can be applied at Kidzania, and the child makes sense of it all, has a greater enjoyment and understanding and a sense of purpose by which you are more motivated, A, to learn, and better to understand what you have learned and why. So I'll give you a very simple example. I was in Kidzania, London in this particular case. I was talking to 3 10-year-old girls who were sitting outside the newspaper, and they just produced the front page and the tangible page which they can take home and show and tell to their parents and grandparents and brothers and sisters. And I asked those girls, tell me about learning English at school. And they were, to put it mildly, slightly negative. They kind of said, well, it's okay. And then I said to them, and which bit is it you like best? And they said, speaking and listening is what we like best. And I said, which is the bit that you don't like? And unreservedly and very quickly they answered, writing. Why don't you like writing? Well, because it's boring. Why is it boring? Because we're told what to write and how to do it, and we get corrected in red, and you get all the answers. So I turned the conversation and said to them, how did you like producing the front page of the newspaper? And the answer was entirely positive. It was brilliant because you can do it together and you can help each other out and you can make the text better and you can correct your own mistakes. So essentially what those children were saying was, when they wrote in a certain way, something that they can take away and be proud of that they've done together, they feel they raised the bar together, they thoroughly enjoyed it. When I pointed out to them that one of the reasons they so enjoyed producing the front page of the newspaper was because they'd been taught at school how to write, they made the connection. And that is why Kidzania and many other places, incidentally, can lay claim to saying, if you practice the maths in a practical environment, if you practice the maths in the English or the Russian in a practical environment, or your sciences, it makes more sense and you will do better. Your results, your level of understanding will be greater. It's very simple. In terms of, and because I think most things in life are simple, right? It is not the school's domain, or Kidzania's domain, or a museum's domain, or a zoo's domain. Educating children is everybody's responsibility. Every child is everybody's responsibility. So what we're doing globally, and what we're starting to do globally, is I want to be at a point for Kidzania globally within the next 2 years, whereby every activity inside Kidzania has been developed with schools. So it is not a separate activity, because the child that goes to school and the child that comes to Kidzania is the same child. So it falls upon us as educators in school and in Kidzania to join the dots. They can, but not as well. And there's something, and again, it's simple and straightforward. So what you need to do is, you need to utilize each environment to its greatest potential. Let me explain. The famous Carlo Rinaldi of Reggio Emilia said that the environment is the third teacher. So the first teacher are the children themselves, the second teachers are the adults, and the third is the environment. So there is no way that a school can recreate the realistic environment that is Kidzania. The trees feel real, the aeroplane is real, the costumes are real, the theatre is real. A school can't reenact that, because if a school does try that, the child will go, that's not real. We even get that inside Kidzania when we have branded and non-branded activities. The children prefer the branded activities because they are more real, quote unquote. So what you need to do is, instead of, and neither incidentally could Kidzania copy a school. It would be very bad at being a school. So in a sense, what we need to look at in the partnership between the school and Kidzania, why would we not do this? Why would we not dovetail and say, we'll do that bit in school and then they go to Kidzania. We'll do that bit in Kidzania and then they can go back to school and practice it. And that is why, incidentally, we're developing a number of global partnerships, for example with Junior Achievement, whereby Junior Achievement provide the in-school theory of financial literacy and the world of work. And once the children have learned that, they can then come to Kidzania and put their theory into practice. I'm going to be brutally honest with you now, yeah, because I think that's the best way to do it. And I think the answer focuses around a number of points. One is a number of a number of entertainment outlets, organizations have discovered that if they put the word educational next to them, they might make more money. So some of this is no doubt economically motivated. Incidentally, where it is economically motivated, it won't work. I'll come to that in a minute too. Secondly, I get asked that strange question all the time. Is it education or is it fun? And there seems to be a mindset that it can't be both at the same time, which is really sad, yeah, because people say, well, Kidzania, is it education or is it fun? I'm kind of going, well, it's both, and why wouldn't it be? So we need to first of all say it can be both. It's a natural thing. Children learn and play at the same time. They do it from when they're that little. Opening boxes at Christmas, when they're 18 months old, they're learning and they're playing. Secondly, the motivation of the organization needs to be first and foremost educational. The better educational you are, the more children will come, the more often they will come, and if you wish, further down the track, it fulfills the economic demands anyway. So that's the right way around. The other bit that I started with would be very much the wrong way around. But we need to come to a point that learning is quite good fun.